She dances for survival, not applause. Under neon lights, she looks like a dream, but dreams don't pay rent. Dreams don't buy baby formula. Dreams don't kiss tiny foreheads at 5 a.m. Her smile glitters on stage, but in her chest sits a quiet ache. A mother fighting the world with tired bones and a heart that refuses to give up. And every night, hidden in the darkest corner, a man watches her. Not like the others. Not hungry for her body, but starving for her story. A mafia king, feared by the city, bowed to by men, untouched by emotion. Yet somehow, undone by a woman who doesn't even know he exists. She thinks no one sees her pain, but he sees every tremble in her hands, every forced smile, every time she dances like her child's life depends on it. To the world, she's just a dancer. To him, she is the one woman he would burn the world for just to give a life full of light instead of struggle. And fate? Fate has already chosen. Tonight begins a story of hunger, protection, and a love carved out of scars and survival. Her alarm didn't wake her. Habit did. Mothers don't sleep. They recharge in tiny fragments of exhaustion. It was barely sunrise, the sky still smudged in night's leftover ink. Cold air filled the small apartment, but her first instinct wasn't warmth. It was her baby. She turned, and there he was. Little chest rising slowly under a thin blanket, lips curled in that sleepy innocence life hasn't touched yet. She brushed a finger across his cheek. "Good morning, my little star." Her voice was soft, like she was afraid to break the moment. He stretched, whimpered, eyelashes fluttering like tiny wings. And her heart, tired and bruised, softened completely. There is no fatigue deeper than a mother's, and no strength greater. She pushed herself off the mattress on the floor, bones cracking like they hadn't forgiven her for last night's work. The club lights still burned behind her eyelids, that hollow music, that forced glitter smile, those hands reaching, those eyes judging, but morning washed everything clean, because in the morning, she was just a mother, a fighter, a guardian, a woman who would starve before she let her baby cry hungry. She checked the fridge. A lonely carton. She shook it, one splash. Barely enough, her chest tightened. "Okay, we'll figure it out," she whispered. Hope wasn't comfort. It was her weapon. She set the bottle in warm water, wiping counters not because they needed cleaning, but because struggle teaches ritual. The baby began to fuss, soft little cries curling through the quiet room. She scooped him up immediately. No hesitation, no annoyance. Just love, pure, heavy, real. She pressed her cheek to his tiny warm head. His smell, milk, innocence, God's softness, filled her lungs like peace and purpose. "There you go, baby. Mommy's here," she fed him, eyes never leaving his face, watching him drink like it was the best blessing in life. And maybe it was. Rent overdue. Electric bill folded in the corner like an accusation. Her shoes from last night still glittering with borrowed glamour. But in her arms, everything made sense. He finished, lashes fluttering, mouth falling open in sleepy satisfaction. She kissed his forehead, gentle, reverent. Then reality pulled her back. She grabbed a small jar, counted coins, just coins, pennies that felt like prayers. Prayers that tasted like fear. A tear tried to rise, but she swallowed it. Crying is a luxury mothers don't always get. She stood tall, even if her body ached. Even if her heart trembled. "Today," she whispered to herself, "today we survive, because survival was not a mindset here. It was motherhood, and motherhood never quits." Far away, in a luxury penthouse, a man who owned the city was already thinking about her. But she didn't know that yet. All she knew was love, hunger, and the courage to face another day. The most powerful woman in the world is not the richest or loudest. It's the mother who wakes up, tired and still chooses hope. And she was one of them. The city didn't sparkle at night the way movies promised. It buzzed, low, tired, hungry, just like her. Maya pulled her hood tight as she slipped out the back alley behind her apartment building, careful not to let the metal door slam. Each step away from her sleeping baby felt like a thread pulling from her heart. Just a few hours. For him. She whispered it like a prayer, or maybe a lie she needed to hear. The night wind bit her cheeks as she crossed the street, head down, avoiding the judgmental glow of streetlights. She moved like a shadow in her own life, seen by no one, surviving for someone who couldn't even say her name yet. A passing motorcycle roared, and she flinched. Not because of danger, because danger had become normal. No, what scared her was being seen. If the neighbors found out where she worked, if child services ever heard, if anyone realized the single mom down the hall wasn't waitressing at a diner like she claimed, they'd judge. They'd whisper. They'd take everything. So she walked fast, quiet, invisible. The street changed as she turned the corner. Trash bags turned into black SUVs, flickering streetlights into gold neon, cracked sidewalks into polished marble stairs. The world she entered every night wasn't hers. It was never meant to be. Lux Club. The most expensive, most dangerous, most beautifully wicked place in the city. The kind of place where men didn't buy time. They bought power, silence, and the illusion that they owned the world. Bouncers towered by the entrance like moving walls. A line of glittering women and men waited, desperation masked under perfume and fake confidence. Maya slipped through the staff entrance. Inside, she traded her worn hoodie for a crisp black uniform dress. Not short enough to humiliate, not long enough to protect. She pinned her name badge. Maya. Simple, soft, ordinary. Yet every night she felt like she was walking into fire holding a baby bottle behind her back. Her manager tossed her a tray. Smile tonight. VIP in-house. High tips if you don't look tired. She bit down the laugh clawing at her throat. Tired was her heartbeat now. Music pulsed through the walls like a heartbeat too big to fit inside one building. The lighting was dim, golden, romantic. The kind of place where secrets thrived and souls broke quietly. She wove through tables, balancing drinks, ignoring wandering hands, pretending she didn't see the deals whispered in corners or the diamonds women wore like handcuffs. But she wasn't here to judge. She wasn't here to be seen. She was here to survive. A waitress brushed past her, whispering, "You coming tomorrow?" "They say he might be here again." Maya frowned. "Him who?" The girl's eyes widened like she'd spoken the name of a ghost. "To you, nobody. To everyone else? The one man you never make eye contact with." Maya shook her head. Gossip, rich man mythology, none of it mattered. She only cared about going home before sunrise, kissing her baby's soft cheeks, and pretending she wasn't risking her life for the price of formula cans. Still. Somewhere high above the main floor, behind smoked glass and velvet curtains, she felt eyes watching, not predatory. Not hungry, powerful, heavy, like the night itself paused to breathe her in. She swallowed hard. She didn't know it yet, but every path she walked alone. Tonight, someone else was walking toward her, and fate had already chosen a direction. He didn't believe in fate. Fate was for poets and fools, and he'd killed too many of both to count. But the first night he saw her, something shifted. From his private balcony, the one no one dared look toward, Luca Moretti watched the club like a king, watching a kingdom he never asked to rule. Noise, money, power, fear, all busy bowing to him. Yet his eyes weren't on any of it. They were on her. A girl in a simple uniform, sleeves rolled, hair pulled back with a cheap black tie. Moving fast, shoulders tight, like she was trying to outrun the world without drawing attention to herself. Pretty? Yes. Sexy? Maybe if she ever had the luxury to breathe. But what caught him wasn't beauty. He'd drowned in beauty his whole damn life. It was exhaustion hiding under stubborn fire. Fighter pretending she wasn't fighting. He watched her. Balance trays with trembling hands, offer tired smiles. Avoid drunk men with the grace of someone who'd learned danger young. Every time someone looked at her too long, his jaw tightened. His right-hand man, Marco, followed his gaze and froze. "Boss, don't," he murmured. "That one's not for us." Luca didn't look away. Why? His voice was quiet, dangerous. "She's just a single mother trying to survive. Struggling. Good girl. Doesn't belong here." Marco swallowed. "And a man like you noticing her? That never ends. Soft. Soft." If only the world knew how much hardness was forced into him before he could spell his own damn name. Then she smiled, tired, pure, real, at some other waitress. "Just a second. It carved something open inside him he didn't know was still alive. He leaned forward, eyes sharp as knives. "Who is she?" Marco hesitated. "You don't want to know her story." Luca's lips curled, slow and cold. "I asked her name." "Not her tragedy." Marco whispered it like a secret that could get someone killed. "Maya." "Maya." It hit him like glass breaking in his chest. Soft name. Frail name, but there was steel under it. He could feel it. Strength smelling like baby powder and unpaid bills. Combat born from necessity, not ego. She didn't know he was watching. She didn't know half the room feared him and the other half worshipped him. She didn't know the most dangerous man in the city just made a mistake. He felt something, and for Luca Moretti, feeling anything was lethal. Marco lowered his voice further. "Careful, boss. Girls like her don't survive men like you." Luca's jaw flexed. "No," he murmured, eyes locked on her as she wiped a table with shaking fingers. "Men like me don't survive girls like her." The music swelled. Maya turned slightly. Not toward him, but like her soul sensed a storm forming in the dark. And Luca? He already knew. Whatever this was, whatever instinct dragged his gaze back to her over and over. He wasn't walking away. Not tonight. Not ever. Power didn't thrill him. Violence didn't move him. Fear didn't impress him, but curiosity? That was dangerous. And she was the kind of curiosity men like him didn't survive. Luca stood in his penthouse office, city lights bleeding through glass like gold over steel. Marco waited quietly, because when the boss thought, the world held its breath. "Find out everything," Luca ordered softly. Marco didn't pretend he misunderstood. Name, address, family, debt, threats. Who hurts her? Who looks at her? His voice was ice disguised as velvet. "And if someone has touched her?" He exhaled, lethal calm. "They disappear." Marco hesitated. "You sure you want this, boss?" "Women like her. They aren't games." Luca's jaw tightened. "I don't play games." "Then what is she to you?" A pause. A truth he hated. A weakness. And for the first time in years, something in him didn't feel like a king. It felt like a man drowning in a feeling he never asked for. Marco nodded and left. Luca walked to the window, watching headlights move like veins of a beating city. Her life is hard, and I'll break anyone who tries to make it harder, even if that meant breaking himself. Her legs ached. Her hands shook. Her tips were barely enough for a can of formula and bus fare, but she whispered to her baby as he slept in her chest. "We're okay, Angel. Mama's got you." She didn't. Bills stacked like accusations on her kitchen counter. The landlord's reminder burned on her phone. Rent or food. Tomorrow or tonight. Eat or breathe. Outside her tiny apartment window, city noise echoed like mocking laughter. She thought about quitting the club again. But then what? Starve? Beg? She touched her baby's cheek, voice cracking. "I don't care what I have to do. I'll never let you feel hunger." In the pit of her chest, a fear whispered, "Someone's watching me. Not creeps at the club." That was normal. No. This felt different, like danger breathing near her life. Like a shadow waiting to touch her world. She shook the thought away. She didn't have time for fear. Fear didn't buy diapers. Maya, a name he shouldn't have said out loud. A name that tasted like fate. Maya, someone out there sees me. And she wasn't sure if that was safety or doom. Luca, I protect what I want. Maya, I survive for who I love. In a city built on power, guns, and hunger, two souls moved toward each other without realizing. They weren't just crossing paths, they were colliding. And when the poor girl's world collides with the Mafia king's, one thing is certain, someone will bleed, but maybe, just maybe, she won't be the one bleeding. Morning arrived like a punishment. No gentle sun, no warmth, just harsh light through thin curtains, and a mother praying her baby didn't wake hungry. Maya counted coins on the kitchen table, fingers trembling. Silver, copper, a few crumpled bills. It wasn't money. It was humiliation in pieces. She whispered numbers under her breath as if maybe they'd magically stretch. Formula cost more today. Diapers? Forget it. Rent? A war she'd already lost. Her baby stirred. Little fists curled, tiny lips searching for milk and sleep. Her throat tightened. "Mama's here," she whispered, forcing a smile he couldn't see yet. Mama always finds a way, even lying hurt. There was a knock, sharp, impatient. She froze. Not today. Not now. Landlord, she already knew. Hope wasn't stupid. She'd buried hers long ago. Maya opened the door with fear disguised as politeness. He stood there, arms crossed, face cold as winter brick. 2 days beard, big belly, cheap authority. Got the rent? I just need a little... No more extensions, he cut in. No mercy. Tomorrow. Or you're out. Her stomach dropped. Please. My baby. That baby doesn't pay bills. His eyes slid past her, disrespect sharp like a slap. And neither do you. Shame burned her skin. Rage flickered, small but defiant. I'm trying, she whispered. He scoffed. Try harder. Door slammed. Echo hit harder than any hand ever could. Silence swallowed the room. Her baby whimpered, a tiny sound that cracked her soul wide open. Maya pressed her palm to her mouth, holding in a sob. Not weakness. Not defeat. Just a mother breaking quietly so her baby wouldn't see. She lifted him into her arms, slow, gentle, sacred. His warmth melted her ache. His trust destroyed her fear and rebuilt it as fire. No one will take you from me, she murmured into his hair. I don't care what I have to do. I will never lose this roof. Or you. It wasn't a promise. It was a vow carved from survival. Outside, life moved on. Inside, a mother chose war, and across the city, in a high-rise penthouse, a man with power, danger, and blood on his hands paused, as if he felt her pain echo across the skyline. Luca touched the glass, eyes narrowing. He didn't know why his chest tightened. He didn't know yet that her tears had become his problem. But fate already knew. One starving mother, one ruthless king, 2 storms rising toward each other, and when they meet, no one walks away unchanged, her baby in her arms. His world stops. Night wrapped the city in neon and noise. Cheap perfume, cold wind, and tired footsteps. Her reality. Maya held her baby tight against her chest, tiny head covered in a worn blanket. He was asleep, warm and trusting, the only softness in her whole universe. She stepped out the back exit of the club, discreet, hidden, like she didn't belong anywhere bright. Her legs ached from hours of dancing, fake smiles still stuck to her face like glue. Just get home, just make it one more night. She pulled her thin jacket closer. Cold air bit her skin, stinging like life, reminding her she didn't have room to be fragile. Then she turned the corner and collided with him. Hard chest. Expensive suit. Presence like danger disguised in silence. Her breath caught. Her baby stirred, whimpering. Maya instantly rocked him, heart racing faster than fear itself. I'm sorry, she whispered, voice small, protective. She didn't look up at first. Poor people learn not to challenge shadows. But something made her lift her gaze. Curiosity? Dread? Fate? And there he stood. Luca. Not just wealthy, commanding. Not just powerful, predatory stillness in his eyes. Danger wrapped in calm, like someone who could ruin worlds without raising his voice. His stare dropped to the sleeping baby in her arms. His entire body shifted, just slightly, but enough for the universe to notice. A muscle in his jaw loosened. His eyes, usually ice, warmed, softened. Like the sight of that little bundle cracked something in him. For a second, the city didn't matter. No mafia, no titles, no sins, just a man looking at a tiny life and the woman fierce enough to protect it. You should be careful here, he murmured, voice deep, steady, dangerous, yet strangely protective. Not everyone in this city respects innocence. She clutched her baby tighter, chin raised an inch with pride she couldn't afford. I don't have the luxury of choosing where I walk. His eyes flickered. Interest, anger, respect. Not at her, at the world that put her here. Good night, she whispered, stepping away, heart pounding like it wanted to escape her chest. She didn't know his name. She didn't know his world. She didn't know that the sidewalk she just walked away on would soon be guarded by men she'd never see. But he watched her go, his jaw tight, fists clenched, and under his breath, almost against his own will. She shouldn't be alone out here. A single command left his lips. Low, lethal. Follow her. Make sure she gets home safe. The Mafia King never protected anyone without reason, until tonight. Because sometimes fate doesn't knock, it collides, with a baby between two hearts that weren't ready, and one dangerous man had just chosen a battle he didn't understand yet. The next morning, Maya woke to the soft hum of her tiny apartment. The baby was still asleep, his chest rising and falling with angelic trust. She stretched, stiff from last night's work, and checked the counter. Her groceries were gone. Or rather, they weren't supposed to be there, on the table, neatly arranged. A fresh carton of formula, eggs, bread, a small note in plain handwriting for the baby. No questions. Someone who cares. Her heart skipped. She scanned the apartment. Empty. No one was there. No sounds, no footsteps. It had to be a neighbor. Maybe someone saw her struggle. She shook her head. Who would... A flash of memory last night. That man, the collision on the street, the baby in her arms. She swallowed. Could it be him? Impossible. He didn't even know her name. Not really, but the timing. The precision. The thoughtfulness. It wasn't random. Her baby stirred. She held him close, running a finger over the small curve of his cheek. You're lucky, she whispered. Someone out there sees you. Across the city, Luca watched from his office. A silent figure leaning against the dark glass, observing a security feed. Her apartment, her baby. The groceries. His chest tightened. Every tiny act of struggle, every small victory. It hit him like arrows. He didn't move. He didn't intervene directly. Not yet. He let her live her life. But he would never let harm touch her. The world could throw its worst at her. He was already several steps ahead. And Maya? She never saw him. She only felt the strange comfort of having someone in the shadows. Someone who might risk everything just to make her burden lighter. She whispered again to the sleeping baby, voice soft and tender. You'll be okay. Mama's got you, and someone else too, maybe. Her eyes softened, yet her fists clenched. She wouldn't be weak. She wouldn't rely on anyone. Not yet. But somewhere in the dark, a man decided that night no one ever touches her. Not while I live. The first thread of obsession had begun. Silent, invisible, protective. And it would grow, whether she liked it or not. The city outside her tiny apartment was alive with noise. Sirens, distant horns, and the faint thrum of nightlife that didn't belong to her. Inside, however, a fragile peace reigned. Maya sat cross-legged on the cold kitchen floor, baby in her lap. The small lamp cast a golden glow over the worn tiles, the chipped counter, the bills stacked like silent threats. He was asleep, mouth slightly open, little fists curling and uncurling against her chest. The rhythmic rise and fall of his breathing became her anchor, steadying her trembling heart. Her fingers traced the soft curve of his cheek, memorizing every detail. Tiny nose, chubby chin, the way his hair smelled like warmth and safety. The only warmth she could fully trust in this world. Shh, Mama's here, she whispered, rocking him gently. Always here. The day's exhaustion caught up with her. Tears pooled behind her eyelids, but she refused to let them fall. Mothers didn't cry in front of their children. They saved their pain for empty rooms, whispered prayers, or stolen minutes in the bathroom. She leaned her forehead against his tiny temple. The weight of the world pressed down on her shoulders. Unpaid rent, looming bills, the threat of eviction. And yet, in this quiet moment, there was a small defiance in her chest. She would survive. She had to. For him. Her eyes drifted toward the small mirror in the corner. It reflected not just her face, but the fatigue etched deep into her skin, the hollow shadows beneath her eyes. A mother's life was relentless. No rest, no recognition, just endless giving, endless protection. She closed her eyes, letting herself pray, not for luxury or dreams, but for survival. For strength to keep going, for courage to face the nights ahead. I can do this, she whispered. I have to do this. Her hand smoothed the baby's blanket, lingering over the tiny fingers and toes. She imagined a life where he would never know hunger, fear, or loneliness, a life brighter than the one they lived now. It was a dream, fragile and fleeting, but enough to fuel her. A faint sound at the window made her flinch. The city never slept, and danger never waited. For a split second, her body tensed, instinct screaming before she shook it off. Probably just the wind, probably just nothing, and yet a lingering sense of being watched crept over her, small but insistent. She didn't know why, but she felt it, deep in her bones. Not a threat from the club, not a random passerby. Someone was out there. Her fingers tightened around the baby's blanket, resolve hardening. She couldn't run from life. She couldn't hide. She could only protect him, shield him, love him fiercely with every ounce of strength she had left. Somewhere high above the city, a man watched her. He saw the small apartment bathed in lamplight. He saw her silent prayers, the way her hands cradled the baby, the exhaustion and determination etched into her every movement. Luca Moretti, the Mafia king who commanded fear and respect, held his breath. He wasn't supposed to feel this. He wasn't supposed to care. But the sight of her, fragile, vulnerable, unguarded, tore through the walls around his heart like wildfire. Every instinct told him to intervene, to step out of the shadows and make the world safe for her. But he stayed back, invisible, watching, silent, protective, always protective, because sometimes the greatest power isn't in your fists or your money. It's in your patience. It's in knowing who and what matters, and never letting them be touched by the world's cruelty. Maya kissed the baby's forehead, pressing him close, whispering again, "You're safe. Mama's here, always." And in that small apartment, amid the quiet chaos of bills, fear, and survival, something unspoken passed between them. Someone was watching, and for the first time she felt, maybe, just maybe, not alone. The evening came heavy and oppressive, the kind of night where the city's neon glow felt more like warning lights than celebration. Maya stepped out of the grocery store, baby snug against her chest in a soft blanket. Her heart still pounded from last night's labor, from long hours dancing under glaring lights, from the endless battle to survive. She tried to focus on small victories. Formula in the fridge, a warm meal ready, her baby's soft sighs and sleep. But the world never let her rest. From the shadows of the alley, a low whistle sliced the quiet. Maya froze. A man stepped into the dim streetlight, one she recognized vaguely from the club. A regular creep, a loan shark's runner, someone who smelled money and weakness and thought he could take both. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said, grin wide, too confident, too sharp. "Where are you rushing to in such a hurry?" Maya tightened her hold on her baby. "Please, just leave me alone," she whispered, voice low but firm. The man chuckled. "Aw, baby in your arms? Don't think that stops me. You're walking alone. That's all the invitation I need," panic struck. Her fingers clenched around the baby's blanket. She considered running, but the narrow alley and the baby's safety kept her frozen. Every mother instinct screamed, "Protect first, run second." "Move away," she said, louder now, fear mixing with rage. "I mean it." He stepped closer, reaching toward her. And then, a shadow fell over him. The figure was massive, calm, deadly. "You touch her, you're dead." A voice cut through the night. Low, sharp, unyielding, the man froze. Slowly, fear replaced arrogance. He looked up, and then ran. Fast, scrambling down the alley, tripping over trash cans, disappearing into the darkness. Maya's chest heaved. She didn't look up. Not yet. Not until her baby was fully safe in her arms. Who are you?" she whispered into the night, trembling. A presence lingered. Still. Silent. Watching. Luca Moretti didn't reveal himself fully. Not yet. He didn't need to. The alley was quiet again, but the danger wasn't gone. It had simply been postponed. The city thrummed around her, indifferent to the small victories, unaware that someone who ruled half the streets with fear, had decided that her safety was now his responsibility. Maya finally exhaled, tears slipping down her cheeks. Not just relief, but the exhaustion of carrying the weight of survival every single day. She whispered softly to her baby, "Mama's got you. Always. No one will ever hurt you." And somewhere above the city, in a penthouse that cast shadows like armor over the skyline, Luca watched her from a darkened balcony. Not with curiosity this time. Not with distant interest, but with a promise. No one will ever hurt her. Not while I live. And for the first time, the lines between fear, protection, and obsession blurred, because in a world that wanted to crush her, someone had chosen to fight. Not loudly, not visibly, but silently, invisibly, and utterly dangerously. The club pulsed with music, heavy bass, flashing lights, laughter that felt too loud, too careless. But for Maya, the night air felt tighter than ever. Her legs ached, her chest burned from hours of performance, and her mind replayed the alley from yesterday. She moved carefully between tables, baby tucked safely in her arms, pretending the world outside her gaze didn't exist. Then a chill ran down her spine. From the corner of the room, he emerged, Luca Moretti, not hidden this time, not observing from a shadowed balcony, not a rumor whispered in the VIP lounge. He was there. The music seemed to dull in her ears, replaced by the heavy thrum of his presence. Every man at the club felt smaller, insignificant, aware that the most dangerous man in the city had arrived. He didn't look at her with the typical possessive glare of a mafia king. He looked at her as if she were the axis of his world. One of the club regulars, a man who had dared to linger too long near Maya, laughed, unaware of the storm approaching. Luca's gaze fell on him. The man's smile faltered. The air thickened. Luca's hand brushed his suit jacket. Calm, slow, deadly. Touch her, he said, his voice low, ice and fire fused together. And you die. The words didn't scream. They punished. Every syllable left the room trembling. The man didn't wait. He slunk away, avoiding eye contact, disappearing into the crowd. Maya froze, heart hammering, baby's tiny head against her shoulder. Her breath caught. He approached her slowly, like a predator walking to a prey he already claimed in spirit, though he never asked permission. You're safe, he murmured, his voice soft now, almost intimate, brushing against her fear. Not a single person will harm you. She wanted to recoil, wanted to insist she didn't need protection. But something in the way he moved, the certainty, the lethal calm, told her this wasn't an offer. This was reality. Her baby stirred. Luca instinctively leaned closer, letting his large, strong hands hover protectively around them without touching. Just his shadow, just his presence. Maya started, voice trembling. No words, he interrupted gently, but the weight behind them was undeniable. Just survive. That's all that matters. Tonight, tomorrow. I've got the rest. The music kicked back in, lights flashing, oblivious to the intensity in their corner, but nothing else mattered. In that instant, the club wasn't a playground of money and lust. It was a battlefield, and he had drawn a line around her, a line anyone foolish enough to cross would regret. Maya's hands tightened around the baby. She realized she didn't fully understand him yet. She didn't understand why he was here, why he cared, why he had the power to obliterate anyone who dared touch her. And yet, in some dark, unspoken way, she felt relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Even if that meant being watched by a man whose power could terrify a city, she would be protected. Luca's eyes met hers briefly. No words, just the promise. A promise sealed in danger and devotion. Tonight, the city whispered its secrets, but one thing was clear. No one touches her. Not while Luca Moretti lives. The city outside still throbbed with neon and night. But inside the club's quieter corner, a rare pause settled. Maya balanced her baby in her arms, exhausted from another night on stage. Her limbs ached, her chest burned with the effort of keeping him fed, safe, and loved. Every ounce of her energy was spent on survival. Luca Moretti stood nearby, silent as a shadow, yet impossible to ignore. The dangerous, untouchable man who ruled half the city's streets with fear now watched something far smaller and far more fragile. Her, and the child in her arms. For a moment, he forgot the club, the money, the power. All that mattered was the baby's soft whimpers and Maya's tired face. Let me, he said quietly, almost a suggestion, almost a command. Maya's heart skipped. She hesitated. Who was he to touch her child? Who was he to invade this sacred private space? But then, instinctively, she saw the gentleness in his eyes, a softness that had never been there before, a protection that wasn't just about fear or dominance. He extended his large, calloused hand, not to grab, but to support. Carefully, he adjusted the baby's blanket, straightening it over the little shoulders. His fingers lingered near the soft cheek for just a second longer than necessary, and in that pause, something shifted. Maya's breath hitched. She realized she was watching the most dangerous man in the city handle a baby with care. Her voice trembled. He doesn't need anyone to touch him like that. I know, Luca replied, tone low, almost a whisper. I just wanted to make sure he's safe. That's all that matters. Her baby yawned and stretched, tiny fingers curling around her necklace. The smallest movement, and yet it softened something inside her. A crack she had carefully concealed from the world. She glanced up at Luca. His gaze had softened, but the strength in him hadn't diminished. The lethal edge of a man who commanded cities was still there. And yet, here he was, kneeling slightly to meet the baby's level, his presence protective rather than threatening. Thank you, Maya said, voice barely audible, a mixture of caution and disbelief. Luca shook his head, eyes scanning the room briefly. Don't thank me, just survive. That's all I ask. There was no arrogance, no expectation, only intention. A promise wrapped in quiet dominance. The baby stirred again, reaching a tiny hand toward Luca. Without hesitation, Luca allowed the little fingers to brush against his hand. A connection formed, innocent, unguarded, and pure. Maya's chest tightened. This was not the man she had imagined. Cold, ruthless, untouchable. This man, this dangerous, feared man, had a softness reserved only for the small and the helpless. Her lips curved into a faint smile. It was a spark, a fragile moment of trust. A crack in the wall she had built around herself after years of struggle and solitude. See? Luca murmured softly, noticing her expression. Even the smallest lives teach the biggest lessons. For the first time, Maya didn't feel the constant tension of fear. She felt watched, yes, but not for threat. Watched with care, watched with devotion, and somewhere deep inside, a tiny flame flickered, the spark of something dangerous, yet exhilarating. Connection. In a city that demanded survival, where every night could bring danger, betrayal or loss, tonight was different. Tonight, the Mafia king who could destroy lives in a whisper had chosen to protect one. And in protecting her child, he had begun to protect her heart too, whether she wanted it or not. The next evening, the city seemed colder, darker, yet brighter with neon lights reflecting off wet streets. Maya left the club, baby bundled in a blanket, the lingering exhaustion of the night weighing on her. Every step was careful, every glance cautious, a mother navigating danger with precision. And he was there, not hidden. Not subtle. Luca Moretti, the Mafia king whose presence could stop time, waited silently near the curb. His eyes tracked her every movement, sharp, unreadable. A warning, a shield. A predator disguised as a guardian. She felt the familiar flutter of panic in her chest, paired with an unfamiliar pull she couldn't name. She kept walking, adjusting the baby in her arms. You shouldn't be out here alone, Luca said, his tone low, commanding, but tempered with concern. Maya stopped, took a deep breath. She looked up at him, straight into those dark, calculating eyes, and refused to flinch. I can take care of myself, she said firmly. I don't need anyone's help. The words sounded small to her ears, but they carried the weight of every sleepless night, every struggle to keep her child alive, every humiliation endured silently. She had survived alone for years. She would survive now. He stepped closer, movement deliberate, controlled. His shadow fell across her path, protective, overwhelming. You don't understand, Luca said softly, almost gently. I can make things easier for you. No threats, no danger. No! Maya's voice broke, the word sharp, final. I don't want charity. I don't want pity. I don't need it. And I certainly don't need you controlling my life. Her chest heaved. Baby stirred, sensing her tension. She clutched him closer, instinctually shielding him. Luca's expression didn't harden. Instead, he studied her, his gaze lingering on the fierce determination etched into every line of her tired face. For a moment, he seemed almost curious. "You're proud," he said quietly. "Stubborn, fierce." His lips curved faintly, just enough for her to notice. "I like that, but you're risking too much, and I don't like seeing you in danger." Maya swallowed hard. "Danger is part of my life. You wouldn't understand." He tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly, but with an unusual softness. "Try me." She laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "You wouldn't survive a day in my shoes. You wouldn't last an hour knowing what it means to fight for someone else every single second of your life. You don't get it, and I don't need you trying to get it. Just leave me to do my job." A tense silence hung between them. The city hummed around them, oblivious to the storm in this small corner of the street. Finally, Luca exhaled slowly, almost imperceptibly. "Fine," he said. "I'll step back and for now. But know this. If anyone ever touches you, or him, I will not hesitate." "Not ever." Maya's heart raced, a mix of fear, relief, and something else she couldn't name. She kept her eyes on the pavement, muttering, "I can handle it." He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement. Then, without another word, he melted back into the shadows, still watching, still waiting, still protecting, silently, invisibly. She exhaled, relief and frustration swirling together. Her independence was intact, yet the presence of this man lingered like a storm cloud on the horizon, powerful, inevitable. She whispered to her baby, voice soft but fierce, "Mama's got this, always. No one can take care of us like I can." And somewhere above the city, Luca observed, knowing she could survive, but knowing also that he would never allow harm to touch them again. Push, pull, independence, protection. The dance had begun, and neither of them could stop moving. The morning sun filtered weakly through the blinds, painting slats of light across the tiny apartment. Maya stirred, rubbing her eyes, the baby still curled against her chest. Last night's tension lingered like a shadow she couldn't shake. Luca's presence, his warnings, his impossible authority. And yet, today felt different. There was a knock at the door. Hesitant, measured. She frowned, careful. Only certain people dared knock at this hour. When she opened it, she found a neatly folded envelope and a small card. No one in the building, no neighbor, would leave something like this. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper with instructions, a contact number, and a simple note. A clean, safe, and respectful job. No one will touch you. No one will threaten you or your child. LM, Maya froze. Her heartbeat thundered in her chest. She read it again, and again. The words didn't scream protection. They whispered it. They offered a lifeline, without humiliation, without charity. Her mind raced. Who could make this happen? Who could guarantee safety in a world that had shown her none? Luca. Of course it was him. Part of her wanted to throw the note away, to reject it. Independence was everything. Pride was survival. She didn't need anyone controlling her, even for her own good. But then she looked down at her baby, peaceful in sleep. The warmth of his little body pressed against her chest reminded her. Survival isn't just about pride. It's about protecting the fragile, the small, the innocent. She tucked the note into her jacket, heart heavy, unsure, conflicted. Hours later, she arrived at the address. A quiet office, small, professional, sterile in comparison to the loud chaos of the club. A receptionist smiled, polite, unaware of the storm that had led her here. Maya's hands shook slightly as she signed in, whispered her name. Then a voice, low, firm, unmistakable. "You'll be safe here." Maya's head snapped up. Luca stood just beyond the doorway, calm, controlled, watching, protective. I don't need charity," she said quickly, defensive. "This isn't charity," he corrected gently. "It's respect. For you, for your child, for the life you're trying to build." Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but she couldn't. Not fully. The proof was here. A safe place, fair work, dignity intact. He stepped closer, eyes scanning the room as if imagining threats even here, even now. "If anyone tries to touch you, harass you, or intimidate you, they'll regret it. I promise you that. Maya felt something stir inside her. Relief, fear, awe, something she had never allowed herself to feel toward another human being. Her baby stirred again, tiny hands stretching toward Luca instinctively. He bent slightly, letting the small fingers brush his hand. Gentle, careful, protective. Maya exhaled, barely realizing she'd been holding her breath. "Thank you," she murmured. Not for the job, not for the promise, but for the silent understanding that someone had seen her struggle and chosen to stand by her side without breaking her. Luca nodded once. Then, without ceremony, he stepped back into the shadows of the office. She glanced at her baby, whispered softly, "Mama's still in control. But maybe not alone anymore." Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the invisible guardian watching over a small apartment. A fragile life, a mother fighting for everything. For the first time in months, Maya felt seen, protected, and still strong. And Luca? Watching from the shadows, he allowed himself a faint smile. Because sometimes protection isn't about control. It's about giving someone the space to survive, while silently ensuring nothing touches them. The sun had barely touched the skyline when Maya stirred in her small apartment, baby in arms. Another day of juggling survival, work, and endless worry loomed ahead. But today, something felt lighter, somehow safer, even though she knew Luca's presence was never far. She prepared a simple breakfast, humming softly to keep her baby calm. The little one's tiny hands stretched instinctively, reaching toward her face, tugging gently at her hair. Maya smiled, the faint warmth in her chest growing as she realized just how much these small, unguarded moments meant. A knock at the door broke the morning calm. She opened it cautiously, her baby tucked against her shoulder, expecting nothing. And found Luca standing there. No suit, no imposing aura, just presence. Observant, calm, and, oddly, patient. "I brought breakfast," he said quietly, holding a small bag. "Nothing fancy, just thought you might need it." Maya blinked, unsure whether to be relieved or irritated. She hated feeling dependent. Yet here he was, silent, protective, offering support without words, without force. "I don't need," she started, but Luca shook his head. No arguments. "Just eat." They sat on the small couch. He didn't hover. He didn't demand attention. He simply observed, giving her space while remaining a quiet shield. She noticed, perhaps for the first time, that the way he watched wasn't just about control. It was care, deep and steady, patient. The baby stirred, small eyes opening, blinking sleepily. Luca's eyes softened. He reached out slowly, allowing the tiny fingers to curl around his hand. His massive, strong hand cradled her baby's fingers as gently as she ever had. Maya's chest tightened. She had seen him command armies, enforce fear, make people vanish in the night. Yet here he was, tender and careful, letting a tiny child guide the moment. "See?" Luca murmured, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Even the toughest little humans can teach the strongest men patience. The baby cooed, giggled, and for the first time, threw his tiny head back in laughter. A pure, bright sound. Maya laughed softly, leaning back against the couch, relief mixing with amusement. "I think he likes you," she said, almost teasing. "He likes what's real," Luca replied, voice quiet, almost reverent. "Not power, not wealth, just this." He gestured at the baby, at the simple moment, at the quiet peace. Time seemed to slow. The chaos of the city, the danger of the streets, the weight of her life, all of it faded for a heartbeat. Just 3 hearts, a fragile bond forming in silence. Maya realized something she hadn't admitted even to herself. Luca's presence, once terrifying, was becoming comforting. Watching him interact with her baby, seeing the softness he didn't show the world, she felt her walls, carefully built for survival, begin to crumble, just a little. And he noticed it too. Not the walls themselves, but the cracks, the moments of trust and warmth she allowed him to see. "Thank you," she whispered finally, quiet, almost shy, "for not forcing yourself into our lives, for letting me do this my way." Luca's smile deepened. "I'll always be here, silent, protective, watching, waiting, but never forcing, only when you allow it," the baby gurgled, grabbing Luca's finger. and he laughed softly in a sound so rare, so human. Maya felt her heart stir unexpectedly in that small, unremarkable apartment amid bills, exhaustion, and struggle. Something extraordinary happened. Trust. Connection. A fragile bond that hinted at something more. A future where the dangerous man who ruled the streets could also become the protector of a mother and her child. And for the first time in months, Maya felt hope, even in a city that had never offered her any. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Maya's small apartment, but the warmth inside was fleeting. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the storm approaching. Maya, however, sensed it before it even arrived. The doorbell rang, sharp, insistent. Not a timid knock, but the forceful announcement of someone who believed they had a right to enter. She frowned, setting the baby down gently on the couch. "Who could that be?" she muttered, already tense. When she opened the door, her heart nearly stopped. It was him. Her ex. The man she had thought was gone forever. The one who had left her broken, abandoned, yet somehow bold enough to return now. "Maya," he said, voice smooth, practiced. "We need to talk." "About him." His gaze flicked to her baby, a dangerous, calculating look. Maya's chest tightened. "About him? There's nothing to talk about. You have no claim here." He stepped inside anyway, crossing the threshold as if the apartment belonged to him. "You can't keep hiding from reality. I know the laws. I know what I'm entitled to. And the courts won't ignore my rights. That baby, he's my son. I can take custody." A cold shiver ran down Maya's spine. Every instinct screamed danger. She thought of every sleepless night, every struggle, every risk she had taken to protect her child. And now, just as a fragile sense of peace was forming, it was threatened. "I will not let you take him," she said, voice low but firm. "He's my son, my responsibility, my life, and I will fight you every step of the way." Her ex smirked, arrogance oozing from every word. "You think you're strong? You think you can protect him from me? I have resources, lawyers, influence. You're just one woman with, what? A few bills? A broken apartment and a fragile life?" Maya's chest burned, anger flaring. "Fragile? You think we're fragile? We survive. Every day. You left us. You broke promises. And you dare come back here thinking you can take what you abandoned?" Her voice echoed in the small space, filled with both fury and desperation. The baby stirred, sensing tension, and she instinctively pulled him closer. Outside, the world continued oblivious, but inside the apartment was a battlefield. Every word carried weight, every glance threatened. Then, the shadows shifted. A presence entered without announcement. Quiet, powerful, inevitable. Luca Moretti. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't yell. He simply stepped between Maya and her ex, towering like a silent mountain. His eyes, dark and unreadable, locked on the man who dared threaten the life he had silently sworn to protect. "You touch her, or that child," Luca said slowly, deliberately, "and you won't live to regret it, because you won't live. Do you understand me?" The ex paled. His arrogance crumbled under the weight of the threat. Don't try me," Luca interrupted. "Calm, precise, dangerous. I've built an empire with my hands, and I've destroyed men far stronger than you for less. Walk away. Leave. Now." Maya clutched her baby tighter, heart racing. Relief washed over her, but so did the realization. Luca had made a choice. He had stepped fully into her life, into her danger, and into her heart, whether she wanted him to or not. Her ex, defeated, finally retreated, muttering threats that fell flat against Luca's silent promise of vengeance. Once the door shut, the apartment returned to quiet. The baby stirred again, oblivious to the storm. Maya exhaled slowly, eyes meeting Luca's. "Thank you," she whispered. Not just for what he did, but for what it meant. He wouldn't let anyone take her life, her child, or her peace again. Luca nodded slightly. No words, no explanations, just the weight of a promise. In that moment, Maya realized the past might return, danger might rise, but she wasn't alone anymore. And someone dangerous, powerful, and relentless, would burn the world to keep them safe. The city skyline glittered under a dark velvet sky, lights reflecting in the river like stars that had fallen to earth. But inside the grand, opulent ballroom of one of Luca Moretti's clubs, the air was charged with tension, anticipation, and whispers that carried far beyond the gilded walls. Maya stood near the back, baby in arms, trying to remain invisible. She had avoided this world for so long, a world of power, wealth, and danger. She didn't belong here, and yet, here she was. The room hushed as Luca stepped onto the elevated platform, the weight of his presence immediately commanding attention. His tailored suit, his sharp jawline, the quiet confidence that radiated like a predator ready to strike. Everyone in the room knew exactly who he was. He didn't need to speak to claim authority. The silence did it for him. Then, he looked straight at Maya. Not at the crowd, not at his empire. At her. "Everyone," he began, voice low, deliberate, carrying through the hall without effort. "I have a statement to make." The murmurs grew. Even the most seasoned mobsters and businessmen fell silent, sensing the gravity of what was coming. "This woman," Luca continued, gesturing toward Maya, "and this child," he paused, letting his eyes sweep over the room, daring anyone to challenge him, "are under my protection." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some whispered disbelief, others fear. But the weight of Luca's words pressed down like iron. "No threats. No intimidation. No one crosses them without consequence," he said, voice like steel. "Consider this a warning to anyone who dares test it. Anyone who touches her, touches me, and you will not survive the mistake." Maya's breath caught. The fear, the danger, the constant vigilance she had carried for years, it all crystallized in Luca's declaration. For the first time, she didn't have to fight alone. But there was more than protection here. There was intention, ownership, devotion. Luca wasn't just defending her. He was staking a claim, not in a selfish or possessive way, but in a way that made the world understand. She belonged to no one else. She was under his watch, his care, and his loyalty. Maya's heart raced. Her hands trembled slightly around her baby, who cooed softly, sensing the tension and the new sense of safety radiating from her mother. Some of Luca's men shifted nervously, realizing their boss's declaration wasn't just about law or order. It was a personal line drawn in the sand. Anyone who challenged it would face consequences far beyond comprehension. Maya looked at Luca, unsure whether to be angry at the boldness of his public claim or grateful. He noticed her gaze, a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugging at his lips. It wasn't smug. It was protective, reassuring, dangerous. He stepped down from the platform, eyes never leaving hers. For the first time, she felt the full weight of his presence. The unspoken promise that no one, not the past, not enemies, not fate itself, could touch her or her child without facing him. The murmurs faded. Respect, fear, and awe filled the room. Luca Moretti had spoken, and the world had listened. Maya exhaled, a mix of relief and disbelief coursing through her. She realized in that instant that her life had changed forever. The stakes were higher than ever, yes, but she was no longer alone. Luca's hand brushed lightly against her back, a silent acknowledgement. "You are mine to protect. And I will not fail." And in the quiet of that moment, beneath chandeliers and city lights, Maya felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Safe, seen, and strangely, cared for. The declaration was made. The claim was clear, and the world would never forget. The Mafia king had chosen her. And anyone who dared cross that line would burn. If you want, I can continue with Act 17, Emotional Climax, where Maya chooses Luca, not out of fear, but the night air was cool, carrying the distant hum of the city that never slept. Maya sat on the small balcony of her apartment, the baby asleep in her arms, wrapped in a soft blanket. Her mind raced, replaying the last few days, the danger, the protection, the unexpected kindness, the claim Luca had made on her life and her child. She had spent years surviving alone, trusting no one, relying only on herself. Independence had been her armor, her lifeline. Yet now, that armor felt both comforting and constraining. Luca's presence, once terrifying, had become a constant shadow, a shadow that brought safety, warmth, and something she hadn't realized she'd been missing. A soft knock broke her thoughts. She looked up. Luca stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, face calm, but eyes glowing with intensity. "Maya," he said quietly, stepping closer. "We need to talk." She stiffened, her heart beating faster. I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore." I can't afford it. Not even you." He shook his head, moving closer, careful not to crowd her. "This isn't about trust," he said softly. "It's about choice. You can choose to keep surviving alone, or you can let me be here. Not to control you, not to take from you, but to stand with you, protect you, respect you, love you." Maya's breath hitched. Love. The word was heavy, dangerous, yet somehow intoxicating. She had denied it for herself for so long, burying every longing beneath survival and fear. And yet here it was, offered quietly, intensely, without expectation, without pressure. She began, tears pricking her eyes. "I don't know if I can. I've been broken before. I've been abandoned. He lifted a hand gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was careful, reverent. "I'm not him. I won't abandon you. I won't break you. I will burn the world to keep you safe. You choose to let me in or not, but know this. I will never leave your side while I can stand." Her chest ached, emotions flooding through her like a tidal wave. Fear, relief, desire, trust. The baby stirred in her arms, and she looked down at him, soft, vulnerable, innocent. For the first time, she realized what it meant to let someone in, not because she was weak, not because she was afraid, but because she trusted him. Trusted that he would not harm her. Trusted that he would protect her heart as fiercely as he protected her life. Slowly, trembling, she set the baby safely in the crib, returning her gaze to Luca. His eyes were unreadable, waiting, patient, demanding nothing but giving everything. "I choose you," she whispered, voice breaking but firm. "Not because I have to, but because I want to. I trust you." A faint, almost imperceptible smile curved his lips. Then, without hesitation, he stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her in a gentle, protective embrace. She felt the strength, the warmth, the unwavering presence she had only glimpsed before. For a moment, the city outside, the danger, the struggles, all of it, faded. There was only this moment, only the embrace, only the promise of safety and love. He leaned down, brushing his lips softly against her forehead. "You and your son are my world now," he whispered, "and I'll protect it, always." Maya closed her eyes, tears flowing freely now, but for the first time, they were tears of relief, hope, and love. She had chosen not out of fear, but trust, not out of desperation, but courage. And in that quiet, intimate embrace, the most dangerous man in the city became her guardian, her partner, her unexpected sanctuary. For the first time in years, she felt whole. The dawn broke softly over the city, painting the skyline in shades of gold and rose. The streets below were stirring with life, oblivious to the quiet triumph unfolding in a small apartment above. Maya sat on the couch, the baby nestled safely in her arms, warm and content. The exhaustion of nights filled with dance, struggle, and constant vigilance had finally begun to fade. The baby's tiny chest rose and fell in peaceful rhythm, and for the first time in years, she felt a fragile calm settle over her. A knock came at the door, but she no longer tensed. This time, the presence that entered brought safety, not fear. Luca stepped in, dressed simply, yet impossibly commanding. His eyes softened the moment they met hers. No grand gestures, no dramatic proclamations, just presence. He knelt beside the couch, reaching out with careful hands to lift the baby. The little one's eyes blinked open, and for a moment, he stared up at Luca, curious and trusting. Luca smiled gently, holding him close, whispering a quiet, playful word that made the baby giggle. Maya's heart swelled. Watching the man who ruled the city with iron fists interact so tenderly with her child felt surreal. There was no fear here, no tension, only care, protection, and a love that had silently grown over nights of observation, shared danger, and quiet moments like this. "Your family now," Luca said softly, his voice low but full of certainty. "Both of you. Nothing will ever change that." Maya reached out, placing a hand on Luca's arm. The contact was simple, unassuming, but it carried everything. Trust, gratitude, and the unspoken bond they had built together. The baby stirred, reaching a tiny hand toward her. She laughed softly, brushing his cheek. "Mama's got you," she whispered. Then her gaze fell on Luca, and she realized the full weight of what had happened. She had chosen him, and he had chosen her. Their lives were no longer separate. Danger, power, and love had collided, forging a new reality they would face together. Luca glanced toward her, eyes dark yet tender. He leaned down, brushing a soft kiss to her lips, gentle, unhurried, and full of promise. She responded instinctively, letting the warmth of the moment wash over her, the exhaustion, the fear, and the uncertainty dissolving in a single, perfect connection. The baby giggled, tiny hands reaching toward both of them, bridging the fragile new family. Luca held him close, turning his gaze to Maya once more. "We'll face the world together," he said quietly. "No one will touch us. No one will threaten us. You and he, you are mine to protect." Maya felt a tear slip down her cheek. Not of sadness, but of release, of joy, of hope. They had survived the darkness, navigated danger, and now stood on the edge of something brighter. Outside, the city rumbled on, unaware that two lives, once fraught with struggle and pain, had finally found sanctuary. Inside, a small apartment held a mother, a baby, and a man whose dangerous reputation masked a fiercely protective heart. Together, they formed a fragile yet unbreakable bond, a family forged in fire, trust, and love. Luca held the baby close, whispering soft promises, while Maya rested her head against his shoulder. The sunlight spilled over them, illuminating a new beginning. For the first time in years, Maya didn't feel alone. She didn't feel afraid. She didn't feel powerless. She felt home, and in that quiet, tender morning, with the city awake around them, their story of survival, protection, and love against all odds had found its first peaceful chapter. The world could wait. For now, they had each other. If this story touched your heart, subscribe now to BRD Stories Hub and show your love for every mother out there. Comment a heart emoji for all the mothers who fight, survive, and love against all odds. Every mother has a story. Some quiet, some loud, some hidden in the shadows. Maya's story is just one of millions. She smiles under neon lights at night, but cries quietly beside her baby in the morning. Her life isn't scented with dreams. It's built on bread, milk, and survival. She dances on stage, applause echoing, lights blinding. Yet every graceful step hides hunger and exhaustion. And every night in the darkest corner, someone watches her silently, memorizing every second of her struggle, for him. She isn't just a dancer. She's a story written on his heart, a prayer whispered in the dark, a life he is willing to protect at any cost. Because sometimes, the most broken woman becomes the reason the most dangerous man chooses to burn the world, just to give her light. Show your love, subscribe, comment a heart for every mother out there.